So how do you use resources in a ministry? Because the worst case scenario, and I've talked to people from all over the two-thirds world. So here's how an NGO works. They come in and they see a problem. So, oh, there's no school here. So what do? The NGO will raise $200,000. They'll bring a crew of people in. They build a school. What do? They hire a Western teacher. That Western teacher comes in. 2 years, 3 years. You've got a school going. The Western teacher's teaching. It's all being funded. And people will participate, and they're like, wow, this is cool, and it doesn't cost us anything. What happens? That teacher in the NGO school, his mom gets sick back in Kansas or something. He flies back to Kansas, and guess what? He never comes back because he ends up doing family affairs and things move on, blah, blah, blah. So in the meantime, the school's sitting there. Fast forward, come back 5 years later. You can't find the school. And you know why? Because the villagers are like, well, the school's not being used, and believe me, they don't waste like we do. So they go and they disassemble that school brick by brick. They'll chisel it apart, and they'll add a little room onto their house for their new baby or something else. And when you come back, there's nothing left. It's all gone. Because it was never theirs, it was somebody else's. And they just took the parts that were going to be wasted and recycled them into their lives. Now, how do you do it differently? When Andrew Jr. came to us from Cameroon, he went and worked in a village of the people called Bonaco, expats who've left their village and moved closer to the city so that they can work. But there's still a long ride out. Where do they station themselves? On this little tiny strip of land that is perpendicular to the freeway where there's a military checkpoint, so that when the cars have to stop to look for Boko Haram people, they can hop onto the car or truck and pay a modest sum of money to get a ride in, or ideally a free ride into the city to work as a day laborer. They're all illiterate. And this is what Andrew said to us. Andrew said, I have an idea for a school. And so that was my first conversation with him. And so he's telling me, I have this idea for a school, so I asked teachers to come and teach kids at night to see if anyone would come. And some kids came. So that's his idea. So that's as far as it goes. Okay, that's the full sum of the idea. Now there's a whole school there on a new piece of land, cinder block buildings, electricity, and a little latrine toilet and a well that you draw from. Okay, how does all that happen? Well, it started with individuals from our church. So this has to bubble up from the people in the village of our church and in the village of the Bonaco. So the first year, Andrew said, my people would build a school building and more teachers will come. We just need the materials. The materials were a little over $2,000, $2,200. So those materials were raised by the people in the church on their own without any participation from me or any other pastor. It just got done. They put the money together, a couple $100 at a time, and then that money went, and those materials were delivered to this village where people live in one-room huts, and this piece of land existed that had been purchased already. All right, about $4,000, but that had already been done. The villagers took those materials. They mixed the concrete by hand. They poured a very thin little foundation and an even thinner floor. They took the timbers and set them up in it, and they put the planks up and the tin roof, and they built 3 little classrooms out of that $2,000 worth of material. Now, if you go there and you ask those parents, whose school is this? They'll smile and they'll say, it's ours. We built this school. There's 2,000 people who live in this village on either side of the highway. They don't have the resources between them for $2,000 worth of material because they make less than $1 a day. The school, the public school that's nearby, is $200 per child for a free education once you pay all the fees. They don't make $200. Most of them, period. So they're lucky to make $1 a day. So that's $365 a year that they could potentially make. If they have 3 children, that's over $600. This school charges $38 a year. It's about 73 cents a week. That's what it costs to pay the teachers. And our teachers get paid at this school on time. And the government school, they get paid randomly. Sometimes they have to work for the school for 2 years before they ever get their first paycheck. That's a whole other discussion about economics. So the first year, materials, people build the school, it grows. Then the government comes and says, wow, the school is successful, but we require permanent schools to be in cinder block buildings. So then our church partnered to do a bigger project. But the school was already owned. And so now it's their school. So now we're, again, leveraging with resources to take it to the next level. And by the way, the literacy rate in that village when this all started, nearly 100%. Now there's even a night school classes for people after they've done their day labor to learn how to read so they can read with their children. They're learning at the same rate. That's how you leverage resources.